Community service is a dying art that we need to preserve. In this talk tonight, I'm presenting to the Rotary Landmark District of Kelowna. In this talk, I was asked to share my personal business journey. Raise Radio is real and raw. And today I'm sharing my very real and raw story of my personal experience going through my business, not understanding that I was going to have to do an immense amount of personal and self-development work in order to get to where I'm at today. If you're interested in community service and just don't know where to turn, reach out to someone. I would be happy to help you in order to continue and preserve the work of community service. Thank you so much for listening today. Thank you so much. It was back in 2011 that I hung out my shingle. And way back then, I had just finished studying holistic nutrition on the coast. And I had long dreadlocks and I had a dream. And I was really excited to spread the message of what I had learned, which was really helping people to reconnect to food, connect to their relationship with food and community. Because I really learned as I was studying about food and health that holistic means we're looking at the whole person. So I realized in my studies that was a big part that was missing from our experience of food, is that it's not just about what we're eating, but it was about where we're getting it from and how we're eating it, and not just how we're eating it at the time, but also who we're eating with, because there's so much when it comes to food and our health that the holistic has to be part of the equation. And so whatever symptom people brought to the table, I was asking questions that they hadn't been asked before, wherever they had been seeking help for their issues. If they're having a problem with one part of their body, I wouldn't just be looking at that one part. I would be asking them, are you sleeping well? What does your daily routine look like? Are you happy at your job? Are you happy in your marriage? There was all these questions that helped me piece together what was really going on. And so really early in my practice, I realized that people needed deeper help than just me telling them what to eat. People already know, whole foods are good and processed foods are not good. Having those kinds of conversations, telling people you need to eat more real food, more whole food, that kind of became really repetitive for me. And I realized there's so much more going on to this story, and I can give people meal plans and then they come back a month or two later and they're like, yeah, I didn't do it. So it's there's more to this story, right? And then of course with the internet and how much information is there, and now it's easily find really good health information online. Sometimes that can be overwhelming for people, but it's very simple to follow a whole foods diet and get foods that are closer to nature as close as possible. So as I continued in my practice, more and more people started talking with me about their really heavy life stuff. So new in my practice, I was only 22, 23, and people were bringing these really heavy things to me. And I'm going, I don't have the skills for this. I'm not a counselor. This is, kind of overwhelming for me. And of course I can refer out. But I really realized I need more tools to help people actually be able to get better and make these choices that they need to, and that they know they need to, but they're not actually able to take action on. And so I realized that I needed more understanding of our psychology and of our spirit health and our emotional health, not just our physical health and what we're putting in our bodies. I started taking more trainings. I learned cognitive behavioral therapy. I started learning more about spirit health and emotional health and trauma healing and what that looks like and how to take care of people that way. So when I was looking into the sort of values of Rotary, I really loved it because it's very similar to the organization that I'm involved with, which I don't know if you told everyone yet, but I'm a JC. And JCI is so similar to Rotary. And so when I was looking at Rotary, it's okay, ethics, leadership, development, these are all elements that I found that I had to pull out of myself as I was working in my business, that I didn't realize I was going to have to find in myself, right? I just thought, I'm just starting a business and I'm just going to do consultations and that's it. But it set me on this really interesting path, and I had no idea what was going to come down the pipe. If you could think of a time in your life when you had sort of this intersection of your ethics and your self-development and your leadership, and it required you to step into something that you didn't know where you were going to go. Because that's what happened to me when I was working away, and so I'm learning more, I'm helping people on a different level, I'm kind of understanding this whole picture better, or at least I thought I was. Then the more I worked in this, the more I realized that I thought that people coming to me were having food problems, and they thought they were having food problems or wellness problems, but that it actually pointed to a deeper cultural issue. And that cultural issue was our relationship with food, our relationship with the land. And that realization helped me see things again more holistically. And at that time, I started really delving more into my lineage, my family history. And so I am Métis, I'm Scottish, I'm Irish, and so I started having spiritual experiences around understanding my ancestry and the people that I came from, and how that can play out in my life, not just my food, but my life, and how that culture was really missing from my life. I wasn't brought up with culture. I wasn't brought up with these, heritage and traditions. And that was like this just gaping hole in my life that I really realized that we were missing, and so many people were missing, and especially that my clients were missing too. Early on in my practice, I thought, okay, like I'm helping people with gut health, I'm helping people with their mental health. And so I had so much experience understanding this holistic view of what our health and wellness should look like. In 2018, my life did this, and I went through what in Métis culture or Indigenous cultures would call it coming into your medicine. And coming into your medicine it looks different for a lot of people. For me, it went a really interesting roller coaster way that I could never have prepared for. I found myself in a very unhealthy relationship, and I found myself having a very distorted relationship with alcohol. And so that became a very dark period for me. I had to learn how to be a different person, and I had to learn how to dig through my shadows and to be able to face my stuff so that I could help people really face theirs, because it wasn't fair for me to ask people to do their spiritual work or their personal work or their lineage work if I hadn't done it. Now, my joke in telling this story that's pretty dark is I was really good at drinking, because as Irish, Scottish, and Métis, hey, that joke makes people really uncomfortable, but it's true. It's true. That's why I realized that I had to stop. And having to get sober was really hard. Before I got sober, I went through 6 weeks of psychosis, medically unassisted. And that's when I really started to come into my medicine, because I had to face this darkness inside me that I hadn't looked at before. And it allowed me to connect spiritually in a way that I hadn't before, in a really safe way. And so, again, this pulled in more pieces to my practice, whereas now I'm able to help people with somatics and their trauma from a lens of animism. Animism is very beautiful because there's no conflict with any religion when it comes to animism. Animism is just a belief that everything's connected and that humans have a deep interconnected relationship with nature and with the land, and that all things have a spirit. So when you go out and you're walking or you're going for a hike and you have this sense of peace, you're experiencing animism. You're feeling the trees, you're feeling the soil underneath you that ground you in. When we know scientifically that these are healing properties, that these are, calming and grounding properties for us. I mean, it's great that science can prove that, but this is a practice or a relationship that humans had that predates religion. So it's very, very old. after I came into my medicine, I started finding medicine teachers, so people who host ceremony or do healing, or are called shamans. I found people that came into my life that could help me with what that looks like for me, and you need that. Traditionally in cultures, when someone is ill and going through mental illness and coming into their medicine, they would have the person in the tribe who's the medicine person. They would take them under their wing, and they would help them get through that dark time. And unfortunately, I didn't have that until I was coming out of it, starting to get better. But then I met my Celtic teacher, and currently I'm working under the tutelage of a Cree medicine man up in Vanderhoof, George Aslan. So I'm very, very blessed that I had these people come into my life to help me at a really bad time, because right when I came out of my mental illness and I thought, oh, life's going to be beautiful now, well, then I did another dip and life got really hard again, and I had to escape an abusive relationship. I found myself homeless, and a year after that, I lost a child. So I really had this like, oh, I think life's getting better. No, it's not. And so again, I had more darkness to face and more things to overcome. And it was really hard, but it allowed me to have such gratitude for life and be able to support people when they're at their darkest points. People still come to me for food help. I love helping people with their relationship with food and healing that, so they can, stop dieting all the time and stop stressing about food. I love helping people with that. But I also find now that with the level of healing work that I do, they can also help people when they're in a really dark place. And I never claim to be a counselor or a therapist, but I offer people space. And that's what a lot of people don't have in their life, is someone to just truly listen to them and actually understand, Our nervous system and how our nervous system functions is a big part of that. So one of the elders that I work with, the teachings that she shares, she calls it like lily pads. So she says, in our society today, a lot of people are jumping from lily pad to lily pad, and they're trying all these different spiritual things, and psychedelics are really popular right now, which I'm not for, I don't do, and it's quite dangerous for a lot of people. But people are trying to find healing so desperately, right? So they're trying all these different lily pads. But she said, why don't you just stay on a lily pad for a while and like really deepen your learning and your understanding of that culture and that practice. And so that's what I've been focusing on for the last 5 years, is like, okay, so I'm really called to Gaelic culture. I'm really called to Métis culture. That makes sense. Those are in my blood. And I'm even learning the Michif language, which is the Métis language. It's the only language in the world that combines nouns and verbs of two different languages. So it's Cree and French combined. It's so beautiful. There's all these like new pieces coming in that have allowed me to help meet people where they're at when they're at a crossroads in life, because everyone comes to a point where they're not good. They're at a crossroads and they need support, and they need someone to just sit there with them in the darkness. And I'm very honored that I get to have that role for people. So in my practice now, most of the time I'm helping people with their mental health, addictions, because I'm very comfortable in that space. Also help people with grief and loss. When I'm not consulting people, I do host ceremony. We'll go into people's homes, or I'll do public ceremonies at the Métis Center. And so that's a big part of kind of bringing back some of these old ways and getting people to understand, what community is on a real level. And I think as Rotarians, you probably understand that this is community right now. But unfortunately, in the way our world is today, a lot of people think that there's community in here. And unfortunately, there's not. Humans gathering in a circle, just like we are tonight, there's really good things that come from that. And that. That's why you're part of a group like this. I'm very honored to do the work. And it's a really interesting space for people to be in. And it doesn't scare me, because it's a human condition. Whether it's food or drugs, there's just shadow there that we need to be exploring about. What is this giving me, right? What void is this helping me to fill? My story is, like I said, pretty wild roller coaster, but I'm really honored to be where I'm at today. And in the last couple of years, I've really, when things were still really dark for me, did a lot of hibernating, a lot of being by myself and working through my stuff. And then a few years ago, of course, post-pandemic, I realized community is very important. And I did do some pretty interesting underground food projects in the pandemic. I was living in my van, and I used my van to transport a bunch of garden beds and seeds and food to low-income people through the South Okanagan. And that was just like underground, like no one knew I was doing that. I didn't post it all over social media. But those were the kinds of things that were, happening behind the scenes. Even though I wasn't good, I was still able to do those things for my community. So I'm very community-minded, part of the JCs in Kelowna. I brought my book here because last year I got a grant to travel through the province and meet with Métis elders and interview them and take their stories down. So I wrote this little booklet of all of the stories that I gathered from the elders, and it was really interesting because being Métis is very complex, and a lot of Métis people are Catholic, and a lot of them are very spiritual and go to sweat lodge, and a lot of them do both. It's very unique.
That I can remember, there's not too many speakers that I wanted to jump up in the middle of their speech and give them a hug.
Oh,
so
thank you.
And then of course there's Emilio.
You can hug after. Okay. I'm a hugger. Hey, thanks for making time to listen to Raise Radio today. I really appreciate you. If you head on over to my website, www.lootsnutrition.ca, you can get some food for your soul. I'm giving away my Food and Healing Make Stress and Overwhelm a Thing of the Past guide. It gives you everything you need to end the mind games, stop agonizing about whether or not you're doing wellness right, and end your nightly cravings. It is free on my website, lootsnutrition.ca. Head there now and you can grab the guide for yourself. Thank you so much for listening today.